This is my 166th video on my work with OO gauge. See part 1 of this series for my reasons for getting into OO gauge when I already had a lot invested in working in N gauge and I didn't really have space available for a large, fully operational OO gauge layout. Also see my series on my N gauge railway modelling for smaller and more complex scenery and smaller scale trains running. This part will continue my progress with my Hornby Dublo 3-rail tabletop railway. This time I'll be going forward further with my 3-rail track work, completing the inner branches for my station and the sidings where my engine shed is intended to go, and testing running on the completed track work with a loco. A couple more of my 3-rail items have arrived now, the signal cabin, the large station building and platform, and the travelling post office set, so they'll be seen in this video, although the TPO set will get its own video in the future when I set it up and test it. Here's where I'd got to at the end of my previous video. The track for the outer loop with its 2 back sections and the reversing loop was all connected up and tested. The track for the 2 inner branches, the station at left and the sidings at right, was laid out but not connected. I just laid those track sections out to confirm exactly what sections would be required to fit those branches. I did replace one track section since making my last video. In that video, the loco I was testing with derailed a couple of times at the back left on the inner loop section. I thought at first that this was due to the set of isolating points it left, which the loco had just gone over. But doing some more testing and watching the wheels of the loco very carefully, I determined that the loco was coming off the points still properly railed, but was then derailing on the full curve which is marked in blue in this picture. I couldn't see anything very obviously wrong with that track section. It was maybe a little bent and maybe the outer rails weren't quite right. It was hard to say. But I have lots of full standard curves. They're really the only thing that I have to spare now. So I cleaned up and adjusted a different full standard curve and fitted it in place of the one that was causing the derailments. And that did indeed seem to fix the problem. I ran the loco over that section with the new curve repeatedly, both slowly and fast, and it didn't derail at all. Since I now wanted to connect the track sections for the inner branches, I made a note of the sections that I determined were required. For the station branches here, 1 left-hand isolating point, 1 half straight, 1 half curve, and 5 full straights, 2 for the left branch and 3 for the right branch. For the other sidings, on the ends of which I'm ultimately intending to have an engine shed, the sections required were 1 point, should be isolating, but currently I only have a standard non-isolating point available, 1 half curve, 1 half straight, and 4 full straights. That will use up all of the full straights that I have available. And I don't even currently have the required isolating point, but more isolating points are coming to me from the UK. And for now I decided to just go ahead and fit the sidings with a standard point. Here's my track plan diagram showing the correct track sections, and now updated to reflect the tracks I was putting down for the inner branches. I got the track sections for the station branches onto the bench and went through my now standard preparation procedure, bending the fish plates back into shape or replacing them if they were beyond fixing, cleaning the rails with ultra-fine 600 grit emery paper, flattening the section bases, and cleaning the contacts with electrical contact cleaner. I connected those sections up in place on the tabletop, but they didn't work much initially. The left branch wouldn't work at all, the loco just stopped as soon as it went over the point. The right branch worked, but the loco stopped when it got to the last straight section. I fixed the latter problem first. There was no continuity on the centre rail between the last 2 full straights on the right branch. This was because the connecting tabs weren't making good contact, as the lower one was bent down away from the upper one. I just reconnected the 2 track sections, putting the connecting tab that was previously on the bottom over the top of the other tab. That provided continuity of the 3rd rail between the 2 track sections, fixing the problem. However, the non-functionality of the left branch was more basic, not a problem of connection at all. The point itself just wasn't providing power to its turning third rail when it was set to turn. So I took that point to the bench to work on it, and it gave me quite a fight. Initially, there was continuity okay between the incoming third rail and the outgoing straight third rail when the point was set straight, but when the point was set to turn, there was no continuity from the incoming third rail to the outgoing third rails. I determined, after a bit of fiddling around, that this was because the wire that was supposed to take power to the outgoing third rail was broken off from its contact pad, though it wasn't at all as obvious as this at first. I got my soldering station going to resolder the broken wire. I resoldered that wire to its contact pad, seen at left here, but the point still wouldn't work. No continuity to that turning third rail, even with the wire fixed. I mucked around cleaning the contact pads and the tongue that presses on them with emery paper. Still didn't work. I bent the tongue a bit and cleaned it some more. Now, the rail that wasn't working at first had continuity, but the other rail stopped working. The one that had worked originally. It turned out that was because now the wire for that rail had decided to break, as seen at left here. So I turned the soldering station back on and soldered that wire back in place, and finally the point worked both ways. You can see here how I've bent the connecting tongue. I also thoroughly cleaned its end. I've cleaned its back as well, but that was just because I was getting no continuity when I tested it there, and that made no sense to me. So I finally got my station branches back in place, and I was able to run a loco to the end of both branches. Next, I went through the same procedure for the track sections for the sidings. There were no continuity issues with the point here, as I was forced to use a standard point with no electrical switching. I got those track sections connected up. I did again initially have an issue with the top branch where the loco is seen in this picture. At first, the loco would just stop when it got to the first straight section of that branch. This was again a problem with the connecting tabs not making good contact, and I had to muck around with the connection of the half curve to the straight to get continuity through the tabs. I received this Dublo signal cabin just after I made my previous video. This building is very light, and I could believe that it's just made of aluminium. I think this is probably where I'm going to leave it. I think that I will position the footbridge like this. I'm planning to make some alterations to the front track in that area. I think that I'll switch over to using a curved power connection track, which I now have on the corner. So I won't need that straight connection track that's in the centre at the moment. Then I'll probably put the TPO operating track at centre front there. And when I get more points, I'll probably put one just to the right of the level crossing to branch off a siding along the edge, if I can get that to fit. I'm not sure how well the TPO track and the footbridge will fit together. It depends how far the TPO equipment sort of protrudes from the back of the track. Here's what I have left of my track order after all of this work. Lots of standard full curves, but not a lot else. The curve with the tape on it is the one that I took out, as it was causing derailments. I put the tape on it so that I wouldn't inadvertently use it again, at least not without fixing it. Just as I was getting ready to make this video, a package from the USA arrived with my large station and my travelling post office. Here's the large station in position across from the island platform where I always intended to place it. Here's another view of that station. I think I'll leave the Westbury name boards as they are, since I think those were one of the original options that came with the building from Hornby. And here's the TPO set. I'm not going to deal with that here, that will be for a future video. But I was pleased to see that the set appears to be complete. The eBay listing pictures did show the little metal mailbags, which are in a bag at top right, but the push-button switch wasn't shown in the listing, so I thought that I might need to provide something as a replacement. But no, the original switch is there in the top right pocket with the mailbags. So now I'll just finish with a running demonstration of my new tracks. So let me just see if I can demonstrate the functioning of these new branch tracks I've put in. One thing about 3-rail is it's simpler to know which way to go. In 2-rail you've always got to sort of figure out where your engine is standing relative to the default direction of your tracks to know whether you've got to operate the controller forwards or backwards. That doesn't arise in 3-rail. You just look at the model itself and you say, oh, well, I want to go backwards, and that's it. Backwards is always backwards, forwards is always forwards from the model itself in 3-rail. So I'm obviously going to go backwards there to pull that loco out of that siding. Now, for that loco to be able to pull out of that siding, I need that point to be set to turn. That's not actually an isolating point at the moment, but if it weren't set to turn, I'd derail when I hit it. And I've also got to have power to the siding, and to have power to the siding, that point is an isolating point. That point has to be set to straight, in fact, to go to the siding. That point has to be set to turn to pass power to the siding, and for there to be power there, we've got to go around to here, and this point has to be set to turn. If any of those points are set in the wrong position, you won't get any power there, because that's an isolating point, that's an isolating point, and that's an isolating point. And that should be an isolating point, but isn't currently. But they're all set the right way at the moment, not surprisingly, because I just pulled him in there. Beg your pardon. So we're going to go backwards, and hopefully he'll pull out of there. He needs a bit more power to go backwards, this engine. Oops, clonky clonk over the points. Now, I stopped him there on purpose, that's not a derailment or whatever, because I want to try the other siding while we're here. So we just change that point. And we'll go gently forwards. Oh, yes, the problem with going gently forwards is you go too gently forward over the... Whoa! You go too gently forward over the points, you get stuck on the points. And I don't have any buffer stops at the ends of the sidings yet, so I was afraid I was going to run him right off there, but I didn't. Okay, so let's run him out of there. We're going to give him enough power to go over there. Okay, now we want to go to the station. Now, we could go to the station by going through the reversing loop, in which case we'd end up going into the station backwards, but I think we'll go the other way. We'll go around and go into the station forwards. So we'll set that point straight so he comes round here. And that point curved, which it is, so he'll be coming around here. And this point to turn, so he'll come into the reversing loop, but then this point straight, so he'll go into the station. So we think we got the point set right, so let's try it. And again, I have to be careful to stop him because there's no buffer stop there. Of course, there should be buffer stops there, and when I get them, I'll put them there. I bought them over 2 weeks ago from the UK. They're stuck in the never land of eBay global shipping, which seems to get slower and slower these days, although it also gets no cheaper. If anything, it gets more expensive, but it gets slower and slower. Anyway, it used to be good. I mean, it always costs 3 times as much as post, but it used to come in like about 3 business days. Now, it still costs 3 times as much as post, but it takes more like 3 weeks to come. Oh well, it hasn't quite been 3 weeks yet. Backwards, come on. It really does need quite a lot of power to go backwards, this engine. Didn't really need to go that far back, but I didn't want to stop him on the points. So now we're going to throw that point. Now that is an isolating point. We're going to throw that point to turn. Oops, wrong way. Famous words, I say. I should know which way I'm going, but then I did it wrong way. So there he is, sitting in the station. And of course, because that is an isolating point, And that was the one that was the one I had all the struggles with? Yes, it was. That was the one I had all the struggles with. If I now turn the power up backwards, he doesn't move, because this is the point I had all the struggles with, that I had to resolder both wires and polish the heck out of the contacts and whatever. And let's just pull him out. Whoops. Out. Onto the outer circuit. And maybe we'll just do a lap, a final lap of the outer circuit. So we have to put all of our points back for that. Okay. Go on then. Bit close to the edge there, but that's the way it is. So there we go, and over the level crossing, past the station, but not turning into it, whatever. So there we go. There's the TPO set. Not taken out of its box yet. I'm thinking of putting that, well, basically approximately where that power, actually a quarter of a straight further over from where that power feed is, because I want to put a point to the left of that. I'm planning to put a point here and have a siding coming here if I can. I'm just hoping that the TPO equipment will fit here without hitting the bridge. And then we'll put, I've got a curved power feed now, I'll put that in there so the power can feed in there. I'm also thinking, I don't know quite what I'm thinking. I'm also thinking I might put a point here and like turn maybe a goods yard or something off here. This is intended to have an engine shed on the end of it. I've got the super quick engine shed. I mean, I could have bought Hornby's engine shed, but I saw somebody else using a super quick engine shed with a Dublo layer, and I thought it looked quite nice. So I've got that. It's not come either. Bought that over 2 weeks ago as well, but it hasn't come from the UK. But anyhow, there we are. That's what I've got at the moment. Yeah, that's about as wide. If I want to go any wider than that, I've just got to walk backwards, because that's as wide as it goes. So there we go. We got the sidings, we got the station tin. I can't put anything more in the track plan until I get stuff from the UK, my buffer stops and some more points that are supposed to be coming. Well, I suppose I could put the TPO. I could put the TPO set in, possibly.